I've had more wide open looks in our pickup games here than I've had in the past 4 years probably.
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily podcast on fantasy basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Fantrax and Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and as always, you can find me on Twitter at redrock_bball. We're here with the fourth of our 5 installments in the Positional Tiers podcast. So I'm sure you can guess which one it is. Well, of course you can, because you can see the title of this podcast before you listen to it. It is the Power Forward Tiers podcast, and to go through all of the big men in the NBA, I'm joined by the venerable Matt Smith. Matt, how are you?
Well, Josh, how are you?
I'm good. It's good to have you on. Good to get into these big men, the power forwards. Really interesting, the power forwards, I think, as opposed to the other positions, as we'll see when we get through the tiers. A really odd distribution of talent, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, it is. They're sort of evenly spread out over probably the first half a dozen tiers or so, and then there's a bit of a drop off. But I guess the thing we need to remember is power forwards and centres are pretty much interchangeable these days, so there's we've got a few here that will obviously play a lot of centre, but as I say in my article, they're based off where we have them in our Basketball Monster depth charts. So yeah, I was about to spoil your punchline.
Go, say it, Matt, say it.
Let's get to it.
Let's get to it.
All right, that's a double whammy for everyone there. All right, let's get to it. Tier 1, Matt. Who are the two guys that are sitting in this upper echelon of power forwards?
Yeah, so we've got Karl-Anthony Towns and Anthony Davis. No massive surprises, but two, I think it's fair to say, probably top 6, top 7 at the very latest picks. Karl-Anthony Towns I've seen go as early as 4 in some drafts, and I can't really argue with it. I like him at 5, just behind Kevin Durant, and then Anthony Davis on per game value is one of the best players in the league, but obviously those injuries are a big issue, and with no Holiday and Evans early in the season, that could affect him in the latter part of the year if the Pelicans don't make the playoffs, which is going to be a long shot. But yeah, they're ahead of the guy in tier 2.
Do you think that there is a risk with Karl-Anthony Towns? We've seen one season from him; it was great, but is there a risk that perhaps he doesn't take as big a leap as what we anticipate?
I think there is. There's a risk in a number of those guys, whether it be Karl-Anthony Towns or Miles Turner, D'Angelo Russell, like all these guys. Porzingis is the other one who I'm high on, but there is a risk that they don't perform to the same level, or they don't increase their output and develop as quickly as they think they might. So yeah, there is a risk there, but there you could say there's a risk with every single player. Like, who knew that Chris Middleton would be out for the season 2 weeks ago, and Drew Holiday was looking like he was going to be in for a career best year, and then he's had his bad luck. So there's risk and reward with every player.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the case. Anyone can go down, anyone can regress at this point. But I bring that point up mainly that people are acting like Karl-Anthony Towns is a dead set guarantee. You know, he played 82 games last season, therefore he's indestructible. He's going to play 82 games every season of his life. He's going to be the 3rd best player in the NBA. People are acting like it is something that has happened before, which it hasn't. He wasn't a top 10 player last season. He wasn't a top 5 player last year. In 8 category, I don't think he was a top 15 player. So we're looking at it, and I'm all aboard getting him at 5 or 6 in that sort of range, but there's a general sentiment, like ESPN's got him at 3, there's a general sentiment that, okay, this is it, he's just this good, but we never have seen it, and you can say it about all these guys, but there's still some hesitancy with me. Now, I love Towns. I think he's going to be the number 1 player in about 3 years' time. Could be as early as this season, we don't know, but I always just want to throw that out there, just so people would go, look, it's not guaranteed. We've yet to see it. It could come, but there's still a 2%, 3%, 5% chance that it actually doesn't come. As for Davis, I've got no reason to believe this, Matt. I've got no scientific reason. I've got no facts to back this up. I think he's going to have a big year. I think he's going to play more. I think he's going to have a career high in games played. I think he's going to bounce back, and I think he could potentially finish in the top 3 this season. I think he's really going to have a big game. And we talk about head-to-head playoffs. and I've mentioned this before, Davis has missed the head-to-head playoffs once in 4 years, and people act like it happens every single season. He gets shut down. Yeah, his first 2 years, he missed the last week of April, but you never, ever should be playing playoffs at that time. So he doesn't. He did it last year, granted, but he hasn't. People act like it's a phenomenon that every season, you're just never going to have Anthony Davis in your playoffs. Well, 25% of his career, yeah, that's correct. 1 out of 4 seasons. The other 3, he was there. So don't let that narrative get caught up in that sort of story.
Yeah, and his usage for the first probably month or 2 of the season is going to be through the roof with no Holiday, no Evans. So he's going to be out there with Tim Fraser or Galloway or Buddy Hield and Solomon Hill and Terrence Jones and Mara Sheet. Like, no one else is going to score but Anthony Davis. He could be putting up 35 points a night.
Some interesting now. I've recorded the New Orleans Pelicans season preview podcast already yesterday, and then some news came out today from Alvin Gentry saying that he's going to be playing some more center this season. Hallelujah, finally. That means we're going to see less Omar Ashik, which is awesome as well. And that might be able to get Davis's block numbers back up because they dropped a little bit last season. His field goal percentage dropped. That can come back up as well. And all these things portend really, and he's awesome playing as the center. So, we're hearing that from Gentry this year or today, so that is interesting to me that he is going to be moving back to that position. Tier 2,
more Terrence Jones.
Yeah, unfortunately, more Terrence Jones, the worst best player in the NBA. He's a dreadful player, but a great fantasy producer. He's literally terrible, but he puts up stats, and if they're going to give him that opportunity, then the numbers are going to come. So he's a pretty decent late round pick, but we might talk about him a little bit later. What about tier 2, Matty? Who's sitting in that one?
Yeah, DeMarcus Cousins is there on his own. Sort of sliding a little bit in drafts, probably gone from maybe that 6th, 7th, 8th player. Now you might be able to get him in sort of 9, 10, 11 range, just largely due to the fact that his field goal percentage and free throw percentage is lower than probably what it should be, and also the high turnover count in 9-cat leagues, but he's still one of the best counting stat guys in the game.
Yeah, look, people are very anti-DeMarcus Guy. He should be there at 15 or 16. Like, I can't see any way that you let him out of the first round at all. I understand, and I bang on about this probably too much. Oh yeah, you know what? His field goal percentage is low for a center. Cool, deal with it. Everything else is. His steals are high for a center. His assists are high for a center. His scoring is high for a center. His three-pointers are high for a center. His rebounds are awesome. What else do you want? Okay, his field goal percentage, it's 4% below, but he's just awesome in every other area. And people go, that's fine. Yeah, he's terrible in that situation. You know what? And maybe he's not great in roto situations, but he's not punting in both of those categories. And in head-to-head, then you can punt the field goal percentage, or you can punt his free throw percentage and build from there. There is zero chance that I would let him get out of the first round. That's not true, because say I'm picking at 11 and someone else has inexplicably slipped, like Kawhi Leonard, who I picked at 10 in a draft yesterday. Like I'll take him. Yeah. But he should never slip. He should never go behind a guy like John Wall. He should never go behind a guy like Damian Lillard, and that happens in some situations.
Yeah, and I guess now with like Karl Anthony Towns coming up into the top 10, Hassan Whiteside into the top 10, there's just a few guys that have jumped over him.
And I'm fine with that as well.
He's worse than he was last season.
Yeah, I'm fine with those guys going ahead of him, but he shouldn't be going at 15 or 16 or 17 or mid-second round. That's just not where he is to me. Tier 3.
Tier 3, 2 guys that are really similar and pretty hard to split. A little bit depends on what you want, what you need. Draymond Green and Paul Millsap. As I mentioned, maybe a slight, very small decrease from last season, just due to Durant coming across and Millsap's age, and maybe the arrival of Dwight Howard cost him maybe a couple of points or a couple of rebounds. But yeah, both of them are comfortably inside the top 20.
I think it costs Millsap blocks, because he was blocking shots at a huge rate last season. Horford has never been a great shot blocker, also not a great rebounder. And I've said this for a long time, this off-season anyway, I'm a little worried about Millsap, the change in system, the fact that he's 31 years of age, the fact that he's having these knee procedures at this point of the season and having a lot of the swelling in his knee. It's not a great sign for a 31-year-old big man. Not saying that he's going to be suffering all season, but when you're 31 years old, you don't get better. And if you don't get better, there's only one way to go, and that's worse. So people are putting Paul Millsap up there. Oh, yeah, just grab him in the first round. I don't think that's the smart way to go, because we saw great numbers from him last year. Absolutely fantastic performances from Millsap. Huge steals as a big man. He's going to have a pretty decent offensive load this season as well. But he he wasn't. He was ranked 15th in 8-cat last season, and I don't really see at age 31 that he's getting better. So that's my concern. I do think that Dwight blocks more. Look, he's definitely not blocking 2.5 shots a game, which he did after the All-Star break. There is zero chance of that happening. Given the year before, he blocked 0.9 shots. I just don't see it. Love Millsap, but I fear that he gets overvalued a little bit at this point in his career.
In a vacuum, do you want Millsap's extra scoring or Green's extra assists?
Probably Green, but I guess they're going to be second-round guys, so I guess it depends what I did in the first round, really. If I grabbed a point guard there, then I'm going to have less need for grabbing Draymond. And Millsap's... In a rotisserie format, I'd probably want Millsap, but in general, I would say Green, but it is really close.
Yeah, I'm leaning Green slightly, but yeah, there's what have we got? 0.08 difference in their overall ACAT value. So
yeah, not a big difference there, whatsoever. All right, tier 4.
Percentages. Tier 4, Kristaps Porzingis is on his own. I love what he can offer in terms of the scoring, the rebound, the threes, the blocks, the elite free throw percentage. He's going to be a beast, and yeah, if you can get him at the end of the second round and early third round and pair him with a Steph Curry or a James Harden, then that's an awesome combo.
Yeah, look, he's going to be playing at least 3 extra minutes this season. Maybe we've got him at 5 extra minutes from 28 to 33. I don't think that's stupid. We've only got him at 43% from the field, and I reckon that's not probably worst case scenario, but I think that he could go and shoot 45, 46%, and then his numbers really come up with 85% from the line and over or close to 2.5 blocks a game and pretty decent rebounding. I do really like him in that third round range, and I've got him in quite a few different drafts so far. Who else have we got? Tier 5.
Tier 5, yeah, we're getting through them pretty quickly. Like I said, there's just a steady decline between these guys. Tier 5, we've got LaMarcus Aldridge and Blake Griffin. Aldridge is one of the most efficient big men in the game. Should take on a little bit more. I was going to say a little bit more scoring with Duncan, but probably that's not necessarily the case with Pau Gasol coming across. But he should spend more time at centre. And Blake Griffin sounds like he'll be pretty fit, almost fully fit for training.
I think he's 100%. I heard today that he's ready to go. Yeah,
for the pre-season and the start of the season. And yeah, you know what you're going to get with Blake with the scoring and the out of position assists. So 2 guys that we're all pretty familiar with.
This comes out all the time about Blake, and again, it just leads me back to my standard rants that I get into. Blake Griffin doesn't block shots. Cool, I know that. He also gives you 22 and 9 with 5.5 assists. It's pretty hard to get, and he shoots 50%, and he's got his free throws up to being almost a neutral value. He doesn't block shots. That's great. I'm aware of that. Get someone else. Get Whiteside, get Ibaka, get Porzingis, get any of these other guys that block shots. Get Victor Oladipo, who blocks a shot a game. Get Danny Green, who blocks a shot a game. And get your block somewhere else. Punt the category, whatever. Griffin's scoring is extraordinarily valuable at that point, and I wouldn't be shocked if he starts hitting threes at a pretty significant rate, either this season or next season. You just get the feeling that's coming with him, that he is going to shoot threes. I do really like him. The injuries have been a concern from him, but I think that you said it. We know what we're going to get with him. We know what he's going to produce, and that can be pretty valuable in those rounds.
Yeah, we're talking sort of end of second. No, not end of second. Sort of mid third, maybe late third.
Yeah, that's look.
With these guys
around that 30 mark, I have no issue getting Aldridge even earlier, to be honest, especially in a roto setting or a situation where you're not, say, punting free throw percentage, because he's a 50-80 big man, and there's not many. He's a 50-85 big man. Yeah. There's really none of those around. So if you're in a situation where, say, you didn't get a great free throw anchor, you didn't get Westbrook, you didn't get Durant, you didn't get Harden, and then your free throws are all right, but they're not insulated by high volume. And then, so that means getting a guy like Griffin might actually bring it down a little bit, or getting a guy who's a 70% shooter might bring it down. You get a guy like that's 86, and that gives you a buffer. That gives you a significant buffer. Whereas Harden-Griffin pairing, you absorb it no problem. But Aldridge is one of those early round guys that I really like in that situation, that can block some shots, not a huge amount, but still over a shot a game. And I think that does increase with Duncan gone. But 50-85, like those numbers are really, really important. And that's probably the biggest strength. And then he's a 19 and 9 sort of player as well.
He's almost going back to his Portland type days.
You're not quite there. He doesn't shoot any threes in San Antonio, but he was awesome in that last 3. And I'm not a LaMarcus Aldridge fan for fantasy at all. He was really poor. He was like outside the top 65 for the first 3 months of last season, but inside the top 25 for the last 3 months. Really motored on, and I think that what you bring up about Pau Gasol is valid, and that will impact both him and Kawhi in terms of maybe not allowing them to absorb more shots, but he's still going to be able to do some pretty important things for this team. Next tier, where are we at with this one? We are at tier 6.
Tier 6, we've got Al Horford and Derek Favors. I don't see their value changing too much from last season, even though Al Horford's come across from Atlanta to Boston. He's pretty reliable in all formats, and Derek Favors, once again, we know what we can get with him, and it's probably just a slight increase in free throw percentage and maybe a few more games played that's keeping him from really being that sort of top 30 type of player.
Horford he has an ADP of 21 on Yahoo. What do you make of that?
A little bit early for me. I'd like to sort of be getting him, if LaMarcus Aldridge is going sort of 25 to 30, probably Al Horford just behind him. But yeah, I'd be taking Porzingis sort of in that 21 range rather than Al Horford.
That basically means Horford is not going to be on our teams at all, because I'm with you. 21, it's inside the second round. I know how well he's played. I know he's nice, steady, flat contributions, but if 14 and 7 is not 19 and 8, I know there are other categories, but Aldridge blocks the same amount of shots. He gets the same amount of steals. He shoots both percentages better. He gets more rebounds. He doesn't hit the threes, but I'm not that worried about the threes. If I want to, I'll get them later. I'd rather get those other harder to acquire stats like the free throw percentage, like the points at that point. So Horford, he's just not going to fit on any of my teams. Maybe he slips, and then that's the case. But 20 spots from 20 to 40, probably not going to happen for me. I would say.
Yeah, and then we've got Horford and Favors in the same tier. So if someone's taking Horford at 21 and you're getting Favors at 38 or 41, then you've got the same amount of value 2 rounds later.
Favors is still pretty high on Yahoo. He's at 29. Although I believe this is the ADP. It's not the updated Yahoo rankings. I'm looking at the ADP because Yahoo's changed a lot of their rankings, Matt, as you probably would have seen. A few similarities to the projections and rankings we have over in Basketball Monster. I'm sure that's just a coincidence, but they have adjusted a lot of their rankings over at Yahoo. So make sure you're checking that out and redoing mock drafts with the new values that they've got on there. But Favors, he's definitely an interesting target for me. He suffered through a lot of injuries. He's ranked much lower. His ADP is much lower on ESPN. He's a guy, I think I would probably have him over Horford in a lot of situations, but it's pretty close.
Would you take Derek Favors or Valanciunas?
Probably Favors, but it's I'd have both of them over Horford, I think.
Yeah, I think I would too. I'd probably take Valanciunas' higher ceiling and upside, I think, over Favors, but it's getting close.
Horford's updated rank on Yahoo, I've just brought that up, he's 17, so it's even higher. So I cannot understand your decision making there. And Aldridge has jumped up to being 20 now on their rank, so he's jumped up as well. So they've made some significant adjustments to the moves they've made.
Where's Porzingis?
He stayed at 24.
Right.
So that's basically spot on, I think. Yeah, he's right at. Oh, did he stay there? Maybe he was. No, he was in the 40s, wasn't he? His new rank is 24, which I think is basically where it needs to be.
Yep.
Where are we at with this next tier? Tier 7.
Tier 7. Another guy on his own. That's Serge Ibaka. Now, for me, he's just one of the most difficult players to get a read on this season. On one hand, he could be in line for that bounce back season with a new coach who has a high priority on defense, and then on the other hand, we still don't know his exact role and how much playing time he'll get and how he'll fit next to Vucevic and/or Biyombo and Aaron Gordon.
We also don't know his exact age.
Well, we don't.
So look, this decline could be the Paul Millsap decline I'm talking about. Could be the 30-year-old decline from 4 years ago. We don't know how old he is. It's not like he's not a tree. You can't cut his finger off and count the rings. We don't know, but he's a significant decline in his athleticism and his shot blocking ability and his rebounding. Yeah, all that stuff might change, but I don't see how the defensive change it was necessitated by the fact that he played with Westbrook and Durant. I don't think that he blocks half as many shots as he did 4 years ago because he has to share the court with Westbrook and Durant when he did that 4 years ago anyway. A lot of people are going, Ibaka's back. He's going to be a top 20 guy, new environment. He's going to be the man. And I'm just a little bit, well, I'm more than a little bit hesitant. I'm in that situation where I go, cool, you take him then. Not my problem.
Yeah, I'm willing to let someone else go a little bit early. Like if he falls into maybe the 40s, then I'll start looking at it. But if people want to take him sort of 35, then go ahead, take him. Good luck, all the best.
Yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts exactly. If someone's going in the 20s with Serge, I think I'll leave it alone. And what we're seeing here is like, say in our 8-cat ranks, Barker's ranked 47th, but we're talking about the 7th tier. These guys are just spread out throughout this section here. There's clear demarcations between them. There's not clusters of players. We've done, how many? 3, 5, counting on here, I'm sure that's great. 6, 8, 9, 11 players in 7 tiers.
Yep.
So they are definitely spread out in this. Down the end, they clump up a bit, but there's real. And it's important to get point guards, but there is a real cluster of them between rounds 4 and 7. Whereas big men, there's drop-offs. There's significant drop-offs. You don't get Griffin or Aldridge, then you drop down to Horford, and it is a pretty big drop. And then again, drop to Ibaka, and then again you drop to tier 8, Maddie. And who's in tier 8?
Yeah, in tier 8 we've got Nikola Mirotic and Kevin Love. Just to expand on that point though, someone was asking me on Twitter the other day whether these tiers sort of match up across positions and whether the players in tier 7 in power forwards match up with point guards in tier 7 and whether they're around the same draft position. Well, it doesn't quite work that way. Like Serge Ibaka could be, as we said, sort of going anywhere between 35 and 45, and your point guards in tier 7 might be down in sort of 60 to 80 type range. So you need to sort of look at these tiers exclusively, but then at the same time it's nice to bring them together and have them all in line in a spreadsheet or in a document where you can see, okay, I really need to get some of these power forwards early. Because there's shooting guards and wings late, and the same with point guards. So that's just the way to distinguish between the tiers and use them to your advantage. But
absolutely,
Mirotic and Kevin Love, very similar players now.
Yeah, that's accurate. Mirotic better shot blocker.
It's not saying much.
No, it's not. I'm a better shot blocker than Kevin Love at this point, but Mirotic is a pretty good shot blocker.
Who would you want?
I would want Mirotic. Oh, shit actually. I would have said Mirotic, but unfortunately, Fred Hoiberg.
Yeah.
He's an idiot. Don't listen to this. He's an idiot. All right,
I'd love to not listen to him,
Kevin. He's an idiot.
I know he's an idiot. It's an open competition between Mirotic, Bob Portis, and Taj Gibson. Please, start Taj Gibson. Start him, and then we'll get a top 3 pick. I'll talk we because we're the Bulls. Start him.
Yep.
It makes no sense. Like, this guy was a fire emoji for the second half of the season. He's the only player who can shoot in this entire squad, basically, on Doug McDermott. His defense is actually better than Bobby Portis's. It's not as good as Taj Gibson's, but Taj Gibson's ankles, they're fused together with cement. Like, he has no rotation ability in his ankles. He's short, he's undersized, he's not offensively talented. His defense dropped off a bit. The dude's 31 years old as well. Start Mirotic. But unfortunately, Hoiberg, head firmly up arse. I don't understand it.
Yeah, if you need some more added rebounding, grab Kevin Love. If you're looking for probably the defensive stats, because like the steal and the block per game with 2.5 threes is just so valuable. Kevin Love with 2 threes and 0.5 steal, 0.5 block thereabouts. Like in the end, it makes a fair difference. So I think I'd be taking Nikola Mirotic and his higher ceiling, and just please, hopefully we can get a month of Mirotic playing 30 minutes a game and going nuts.
We've got Mirotic projected only at 29 minutes a game. We've got Love at 31, and Mirotic comes in ranked ahead of him in that same tier, but there's 2 minutes difference. If they played the same amount of minutes, 31 each, then Mirotic would be up in that Ibaka range, I would think. But obviously we have zero faith in Hoiberg doing that, despite it, from all intents and purposes, from everything coming from everyone covering the team and everyone who's smarter than me, we're looking at the NBA, says it's got to be Mirotic. Like, how can this team function if it's not? Hoiberg knows best apparently, and he's got to look. But there's been a few of these statements throughout the NBA, saying about open competitions that the Jazz don't know if they're going to start Joe Johnson or Rod Hood at shooting guard, and I don't think that's going to happen. Thibodeau, not sure if he's starting Zach LaVine, which would just totally floor me if he didn't start Zach LaVine. Weird situations sort of popping up everywhere. Mike D'Antoni saying that Nene is a top 5 center in the entire NBA. Like, what the hell's going on? I don't know what some of these things that these people are saying.
Yeah, it's been a strange start to training camps, I think.
If D'Antoni had said that Nene was a top 5 center on the Rockets, I would have gone, yeah, okay, that's fair enough. Yep, I'm behind that.
Yeah.
Top 5 in the NBA.
And how they have Nene on their roster and not Monty Eunice is beyond me.
Yeah, look, Nene's good in 18 minutes a night. He and 50 games a year. And we know what he is. Like he can have games where he's really dominant. He's not a top 5 center in the NBA. He's never been a top 5 center in the NBA. He's unreliable. You surely can't be going with Nene over Clint Capella. It doesn't make any sense. It makes zero sense, in fact. But D'Antoni also came out and the players that he praised, Nene, top 5 center, all our guys have been awesome. KJ McDaniels, Tyler Ennis, Sam Decker. They were all his guys that were awesome. So unless he's just running out a bench unit the whole time, then I'm not sure how much faith we put into. He basically just propped up every bench player and said, look how awesome our shit kickers are. What's the next tier?
Tier 9, we've got 2 completely different types of players here. We've got Enes Kanter and Jabari Parker. Spoke earlier about LaMarcus Aldridge's efficiency. If you miss out on something like that early on, then Enes Kanter's just about the next best, around that 55, 56% from the field, 80 from the free throw line. A pretty good volume, lots of points, lots of rebounds. Obviously, you're going to have to find your defensive stats elsewhere, but he looks like he's in for a very, very strong season.
He's awesome.
Yeah, I know you love him and have a special nickname for him. Doesn't matter whether he starts or comes off the bench. And another guy who, I love this season is Jabari Parker. He was in for a big season anyway, and maybe even more so now with Chris Middleton set to miss the majority of the season. Parker should be the Bucks' leading scorer, and I've bumped him up probably sort of 10 to 15 spots in my rankings.
Yeah, look, he's a significant player. He doesn't block any shots, but again, you should not care. He's going to score a lot. His rebounding is not ideal, but he gets a lot of steals. He's pretty efficient, or he's very efficient from the field and from the line. I think we see a pretty solid season from Jabari Parker. Really, it's his second season. I know last season was his second one, but he played the first half on ACL recovery timetable, back to his best after January, and this is really heading into his second year now. I think that we're going to see a pretty special Jabari Parker season, something that could challenge for the top 50. Maybe he's the fact that he doesn't hit many threes, he doesn't block shots, but the fact is he shot threes in high school. He shot a lot of them. He shot threes in college. He just hasn't done it in the NBA. I think you'll see a little bit more from him this season in that area, and that'll obviously help his numbers come up. But he's an interesting player. He is a little bit different from my boy Kanter. Again, I don't care that he's not blocking shots. Whatever. You draft him because he's going to give you fantastic percentages. He's an animal. He's the best offensive rebounder in the NBA. He's an animal rebounder. He's one of the best offensive centers in the NBA. He just embrace the positive. Some people might think I come across negative. When I look at fantasy, I embrace the positives. I don't look at it and go, Kanter doesn't block shots. I go, he rebounds the ball better than anyone. He scores 18 points in 20 minutes. Like, nobody does that. He scores 58% and 80% from the line. Again, people don't do this. These are what he brings, and I always apply that logic to DeMar DeRozan. He doesn't shoot threes. Cool. He also gets the line 9 times a game and shoots 86%, and literally nobody does that outside of James Harden. So look at the positives.
Have you got any positives to say about Tony Wroten?
He's on an NBA roster.
It's a start.
Yeah, I don't know how long he's going to remain on it. My positive for him is if you were going down to the playground to play, he'd dominate. He'd be absolutely awesome. But he would be the most frustrating player to play with in a professional team-based environment, I think.
Tier 10, I don't know about you, but I really don't like this tier. I'd be wanting at least a couple.
There's a few guys I don't mind here.
If not 3 of the guys we've spoken about earlier, or 2 of those power forwards and another centre. But tier 10, and I think there's a a sizable drop-off between 9 and 10, but 10 we've got Tobias Harris, Dirk Nowitzki, Thaddeus Young, Ben Simmons, Ryan Anderson, and Markeith Morris. They all offer something different. We've got a wide variety of ages, like Dirk Nowitzki's 38 and Ben Simmons is, 19 or 20?
Yep, 19.
Anyone stand out? Anyone you really don't want?
Yeah, Ryan Anderson. I don't want. That was him at the start with that quote about being open. I talk about it on the Pelicans podcast, which you can listen to coming out tomorrow, I think. We're recording. No, it'll come out before this. You would have heard it. But he said that he didn't get any wide open shots in New Orleans when I think 95% of his 3-point attempts were actually wide open. So not sure what the point of cheap shotting the Pelicans was in that situation. I just don't think he offers anything. Yeah, he'll score a bit. He'll hit some threes, but what else is he? He's a poor man's Kevin Love, really, and worse than Kevin Love because he doesn't pass the ball. He doesn't get assists. The guys I like Toby Harris here. I'd be inclined to even include him in the Jabari Parker Enes Kanter tier. Markeith Morris, I'm probably higher on him than you are because I'm not a Suns fan. So that puts it there. I think I don't know what we're going to get. I think that he's got more upside than Anderson. I think he's got more upside than Nowitzki. I think that Thad Young is definitely going to drop off. And Simmons is the real interesting one to me because he's really dependent on what else you've done so far in the draft. You need assists, then bang, you're going to get big rebounds, big assists. He's going to play the most minutes on this team. The dude can shoot. He just never has had to, but he's not going to be great for your percentages. He won't help you in 3-pointers, but getting assists out of a power forward, 6, 7, who knows, 8 assists. We don't know what he's going to get. He's going to handle the ball a lot, and that's going to be really interesting. So it depends on what you've done beforehand, but he's a guy that I see interest in. Dirk, Thad, Ryan Anderson, they need to drop a bit for me to really consider them, I think.
Yeah, I can't see myself owning any of these guys. Like, I think Tobias Harris is a better real-life player than he is a fantasy player. Like him, Dirk, are probably more suited to roto style than head-to-head, where they're just good across a number of categories without giving you that big boost you need for head-to-head leagues. Thad Young with the out-of-position steals. Ben Simmons is probably the opposite. You like him in head-to-head leagues rather than rotisserie leagues because his efficiency is going to kill those numbers. Probably his most value comes in points leagues if anyone still plays them anymore. Markeith Morris, I'm not as keen on him as you. Maybe that's my son's bias, but also just don't think he's maybe as good as what people make him out to be. But we did hear that apparently he wants to shoot twice as many 3-pointers as he has over the last couple of seasons.
So how many is that going to equate to?
Well, I've done some maths, Josh. It comes to somewhere between 300 and 350.
It's a lot. It's like four a game he's going to take. It's a lot.
So that's either going to see his threes per game at 1.5 or his field goal percentage at 38 or maybe even both. We don't know. So
yeah, he's definitely not a power forward you want to bump your field goal percentage up. I think we can rule that out.
Yeah, for sure.
Tier 11. This is a solitary tier.
It is. Marvin Williams is there on his own. Not going out of my way to draft Marvin Williams. Should still have some value in standard leagues off the waiver wire for streaming purposes, but I'm not paying for that career season last year. And we have obviously Michael Kidd-Gilchrist back in the fold, and I think Kaminsky will see some extra playing time there as well. So both of those things will hurt Marvin Williams' value.
I agree on Kidd-Gilchrist and Kaminsky as well. And Williams, you can look at his numbers from last season and you can say he's ranked as top 50. It is all fueled by ridiculously low turnovers. Take that out and he was ranked 72nd. So that's about the range. Plus, then, does he shoot career-high numbers again? Probably not. Does he block career-high numbers again? Probably not. Does he do any of these things at the same level he did? Yeah, probably not. So yep, he's fine down there to me. He might get auto-drafted by some people if he's higher up in some rankings, although Yahoo's got him at 92, which is probably about the right sort of spot for him. But yeah, no real expectation for him to do what he did last season anyway. Where are we at with the next one?
12.
12, there we go.
Al-Farouq Aminu and Zach Randolph now. Aminu, we've heard will play a lot more power forward this year, maybe even predominantly power forward, with Evan Turner and Alan Crabb and those guys playing small forward. I really like Aminu again this season. I did last season, coming across from Dallas to Portland. And yeah, like him again for some scoring, rebounding, And he's the sort of guy who can go big in a number of different categories, whether that's grabbing 15, 16 rebounds, whether that's blocking and stealing 3 and 4 blocks, 3 steals, hitting 3 or 4 3-pointers like he did in some of the playoff games last season. So he's a pretty good head-to-head guy. Zach Randolph, that's pretty sort of boring pick there. I'm not drafting or owning Zach Randolph anywhere this year.
Yeah, Randolph's got an ADP inside the top 100 on Yahoo, and that's way too rich for me. Aminu's definitely a good upside pick in the late rounds because you're right. He could go big in rebounds, blocks, steals. His 3-pointers really came along at the end of last season. He's a poor field goal percentage guy, but maybe he bumps that to 45, 46. That's a possibility as well. But as per a lot of the positions in Portland, there's a lot of depth without anyone being really great. So he's going to have to share minutes with Myers Leonard and Mason Plumlee, and to get all these guys on the court, he's not going to be playing much 3, or if he does, he's battling with Crabbe and Turner. It's just tough for him. Ed Davis, another guy who can get minutes at the 4 as well. So it is going to be tough. Zach Randolph, we saw benched last season in favour of JaMychal Green. He's not getting any younger. We know that. He's never been a guy that blocks shots or gets steals. His field goal percentage has dropped significantly. He's not a double-digit rebound player anymore. He'd be a guy that would suit a last pick in the draft, but there's zero upside there. So I would rather go in a different direction. And then if my upside pick doesn't work, and then Randolph, he's still getting 32 minutes, maybe plug him in. I don't see Fizdale just rolling him out there and giving him 32, 33 a night and going, welcome to 2010 Memphis fans. I just don't think that's going to happen. So he's a guy I'm pretty down on.
Tier 13, we have Julius Randle, Kenneth Faried, Jared Sullinger, Trevor Booker, Amir Johnson, and Marcus Morris. And I've said exactly the same thing in my little comment there about Julius Randle. If I had the choice between Randle and Randolph, give me Randle and higher ceiling, a bit more of the unknown, and
Not a Randle fan, but he's definitely the upside pick there, and absolutely no problem with doing it there. But I don't think that Randle ever turns into an above-average NBA starter in his career. I know a lot of Lakers fans really disagree with that, but I'm not convinced. At this point, he's a good rebounder, and he's good at literally nothing else. But again, it's his second season, so let's see what he can bring to the table. Let's see what he can improve. I'm not feeling all that confident with him at this point, though.
And hopefully Luke Walton can develop him better than that coach. Well, I was going to coach. That's not really a proper term, is it?
No, he was a
guy wearing
guardian.
Yeah,
I don't know. The rest of this tier, there is a lot of crap floating around here. Yeah, Ken Faried, forget about it. Done. Jared Sullinger. Yeah, look, I don't mind getting Sullinger with a late pick and seeing what happens because he's got the potential. He's got a really friendly fantasy game if it all comes together, but we don't know if it all is going to come together, so that's a concern. Yeah, Trevor Booker. He'll start, but what's the excitement there? Amir Johnson splitting minutes with Kelly Olynyk. There's nothing really all that good there, is there?
There's not.
Randle is the best of that group, and that's saying something.
Yeah, for sure. And I like Sullinger as well, but that power forward spot in Toronto is, pretty of a barren fantasy.
Oh, yeah. You don't want Patrick Patterson. No one to touch him.
Louis Scola.
Louis Scola's not there anymore.
Oh, sorry. No, I'm talking from last
season.
Like, we didn't get anything out of that spot. So Sullinger to come in and all of a sudden put up top 100 value or top 120 value seems a long way off.
Yeah, it'll be a struggle. It's not a position that Toronto power forward. It's not a position that's maybe Damari Carroll plays there a little bit more to get Norm Powell onto the court. I can see that happening as well. So that's another cross against Sullinger's name. But at the end of the draft, these guys, Randall's got upside, but a lot of these other guys don't really have significant upside either. So I'm not all that interested in them. But a really interesting group of players throughout the whole power forward tiers. They are spread out. There's guys with significant sort of steps between them all without being bunched up, and you got to make sure you're grabbing the guys that you want. And there's lots of different skill sets. There's the no defense guys, there's the all defense guys, there's shooters, there's scorers, there's lots of different types. Thad Young's the defensive sort of guy with the steals. There's Ibaka's getting blocks, scoring. There's just everything you can want, and it all depends on what do you want Blake Griffin's 5.5 assists, because that's great. Do you want Enes Kanter's 0.3 assists? Then that's terrible. There's differences there between all these players, and that goes for the whole of the fantasy basketball playing pool, that there's differences between all these guys that you really have to pay attention to when you're looking to draft them. Matty, we've got one positional tier show to go, and that is the centres, and that'll be coming next week. It's been you guys have responded really well to the tiers shows and articles that we've done, so thank you to everyone who's tuned in and enjoyed them and tweeted us about them. Matt, if they want to tweet you about the power forward tiers and have any specific questions about this or anything fantasy basketball related, or if you want to ask Matt any questions about how to survive a night without any power, where can they tweet you?
Yes, you can tweet me at SManSports, and that's if I've got enough charge in my phone. If not, you'll have to wait because we've been smashed with storms down here. But
Matt's entire state lost power. The entire state, not a city, the entire state had no power last night. So all of South Australia was, I was going to say they were pushed back to the dark ages, but they just had no power. That's the only difference to normal life normal life in South Australia.
Just getting back on basketball discussion for a moment, we should just mention Chris Bosh
yes.
in power forward tiers. I think you and I both agree that he shouldn't be drafted in any league, any format.
No, he's not playing for Miami. Look, he might get cut, he might get traded. He's not going. He should not be drafted. Chris Middleton should not be drafted. The news for Drew Holiday is a little bit more positive. Spoke to Mason Ginsberg for the Pelicans podcast, and he reckons that the talk around the Pelicans is he's going to miss the first month of the season, so looking to be back early to mid-December. Initially, we were thinking late December, but Lauren's had the baby now, so 4 to 6 weeks she'll have the surgery, and then Drew might miss a month after that. So we might only miss a month from Holiday. So that's more positive news in that sense.
Good news. Very good news. Anyone else we've missed or just need to comment on for sort of deeper leagues?
Dario Saric was playing with the starters today with the Sixers. They ran Bob Cove at the 2. They ran Saric at the 3, Simmons at the 4, and Embiid at the 5 with Jared Bayless at the point guard position. So that was the starting 5 in a Sixers scrimmage today. I thought that was pretty interesting. So I've given Saric an extra minute. I like him as a last round flyer.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. Definitely one to watch. Another guy there, Trey Lyles.
Yep.
If anything happens to Favors or Rudy Gobert,
jump him straight away.
Got to be all over him. But I just don't see him getting enough minutes while those two guys are healthy.
Derek Williams and Terrence Jones are also good late round flyers. Derek Williams replacing Chris Bosh potentially. He's never been great. I don't think he demands 30 minutes, but 25 to 27 minutes, maybe it works out. I don't mind him as a late round pick either.
Yep, Josh McRoberts has a stress reaction in his foot. Belitza, maybe a deeper guy there for Timberwolves.
We don't know how Tibbs is going to use him, so he's an interesting guy as well. So there are a few of those guys that I would look at in that situation.
Zeletovic, if you need threes, definitely streaming through.
Absolutely.
Larry Nance is. Oh no, I think we covered him in small forwards.
Let's talk about it. I don't mind him as a late round flyer either.
I'd probably even take him over Julius Randle.
He's definitely got more fantasy upside. If they played the same amount of minutes, I would definitely be taking Nance over Randall. We don't know how that's going to pan out at this point, but that's how I'd be taking them if they were to play equivalent minutes.
And if Donatas Motiejunas does end up with the Rockets, just off the top of my head, I would probably sneak him into about tier 10. I would reckon 10. I'd have him over Marvin Williams.
I reckon he'd struggle to get 20 minutes, to be honest. They don't seem that keen on him. I don't think who are they giving him minutes over? The top 5 centre in the NBA?
Yes.
They should, but they won't. Ryan Anderson, Clint Capella.
Ryan Anderson will get injured, and Motiejunas will play more behind Capella and play small ball with Trevor Ariza at the 4. I think he can carve out a decent role there. So still hanging out hope that he can get signed. If
he ever gets signed, it's October and the dude isn't on a team yet, so it's a weird situation. Maybe he gets there soon. Who knows? Matt, thank you for coming on again.
Thank you, Josh. I'll talk to you next week.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.